beginning, there was baseball. How you doing, Evan?
I'm doing good. How are you doing today?
Are you doing good?
No, I'm actually not. I'm pretty pissed off because of what happened last night.
All right, tell us what happened.
I'm going to. I'm actually livid because if you're gonna go to a baseball game, first off, it's not just getting to the game that's difficult, which is because I live in Westchester, so I usually take an Uber because I'm a crazy person. I don't like trains, so I take an Uber. So we get to the stadium, we eat outside the stadium, and we're all pumped to go in. It's now 6:30. I'm pretty sure they knew by around 6 o'clock that this game was not going to happen or it was going to be played, the next day.
A little bit of context, maybe a few of you might not be from the New York area. It was bad. It was really, really bad. At about 9 o'clock, it's like a plague opened up over New York City. I actually got caught in it. I didn't get a chance to tell you about that, but I was actually outside with an umbrella, and a lot of good that did. I was soaked either way.
The wind, and there were puddles everywhere. There was flooding.
Within like 30 seconds, there was an inch of water on the ground.
It was pretty bad. So anyway, we get to the stadium 6, and by the time we get in, it's 6:30. So they scanned our ticket, and I am convinced that the ticket idiots knew when they scanned my ticket that the game was not going to happen, and that they just wanted me to come in for beer and stuff. And that's exactly what happened. I went in, and there were a bunch of other fans there eating their chicken buckets, and one guy said something to me, and I ignored him because I was like, yeah, whatever, the game's going to start soon. And then we turn around, and we see the stupid TV that said the game is moved to tomorrow. Okay, that's fine. So I'm thinking I have a ticket to this game. When they move it to tomorrow, I'm going to have a ticket to that game. Apparently, that's not the case with the Yankee ticket policy. And I don't. Can you explain the policy? Because I don't really understand it.
It's extremely vague.
It's
extremely vague. Yeah, the thing that we talked about was how the wording that they use is like good for one scan or whatever they say.
Yeah, so exactly. They scanned my ticket, and then when I checked the ticket to go to the next game, it said, "Thank you for coming to the game. Hope you enjoyed it." I didn't enjoy it because you canceled it and you didn't tell me until I bought $30 worth of beer. Yeah, and the beer wasn't even cold. It was
warm
warm beer.
That's worse than not going to the game.
Exactly.
This is the real travesty. You didn't tell me about this part.
No, it was terrible because I didn't want to get you triggered too. We're both triggered now. This is terrible.
Yeah, I don't know. The policy, I'm not 100% sure, because if it really is only for one scan, how do people get into the day portion of the doubleheader?
It can't be right. I think I'm reading something wrong. I don't know.
So
if one of you guys wants to, write a comment and tell us what this policy is, that would be great.
And if you want to tell Evan that he can't read in the process,
I apparently can't.
He needs to be told that a few times.
I read it a bunch, and I still have no idea what's going on. They called it single admission doubleheader. But I already had a ticket to that game.
Right.
Okay, I didn't buy a ticket to the date. I bought a ticket to the game, and the game is still being held on the other day. So I should be able to go to that game. I don't want to go to another game. I want to go to that game.
You should have just broke in.
Broke in?
You should have just broke in. And as a matter of fact, just play the game. Just be in there. You were a pitcher. You could do it.
Yeah, I pitched high to low 60s.
Cool. That'll get it done. I mean, throw a knuckleball.
I did throw a knuckleball.
There you go.
I didn't knuckle.
Well, okay, so you're not doing too great, and I'm not doing too great either.
Yeah, what's pissing you off?
All right, so what I'm upset about is, Robert Manfred.
I know him.
So he started off pretty good. He started off pretty good as the commissioner of MLB. One of his first acts was to get rid of the stupid World Series home field advantage tie-in to the All-Star game.
Yeah, I agree. It
was always one of the dumbest things in the world that an exhibition game where people probably aren't playing 100%. It's not as bad as like the Pro Bowl, but it's still not a game that should dictate home field advantage. So that was a good move. I liked that. Here's what I don't like. I don't like this whole idea that baseball needs to change. Baseball doesn't need to change to cater to new fans. I will say there are some things that I'm okay with baseball changing.
Right.
I'm okay with condensing the game down to the point where there's little downtime. I'm cool with that. That's a good idea, because you know what? You can go to a 3.5-hour game that is full of action, full of, start to finish, just a great time. You can go to a 2.5-hour game that was just dreary. It has nothing to do with the length of the game. It has to do with the things that happen within the game. So when they make a rule saying, okay, batters have to stay in the batter's box, totally cool with it. No one goes out and like rips their gloves off and spits in their hands. And right.
That's what we need to.
We're looking at you, David Ortiz. Hope you're feeling better. Now, another thing, you know, the mound visits. Kind of okay with it.
Right.
Limiting the mound visits. Yeah, why not? I'm okay with pitch clocks. I know some pitchers will probably get affected, but
Steve Traxel back in the day would have been affected.
Well, how about Josh Beckett? Oh my goodness!
I really couldn't watch Steve Traxel pitch. He was among one of the most mediocre pitchers, and it took him on average 4 to 6 hours to finish a game.
Something like that. Sometimes
And he
as high as
pitched for
10,
the Mets,
11,
so you're not
15.
watching that anyway.
Right? Yeah, nobody did. Okay, so these are things that I'm kind of okay with. Well, you know what I'm not okay with? I am not okay with the fact that the game needs to be shorter. That is not true. That is not a thing. So what did they do last year? They did that whole thing where they're testing it out in the minor leagues where extra innings will start with someone on second base. Awful. Absolutely awful. It better never see the light of day in baseball, in MLB. Well, now what are they doing? So now they're introducing a new rule where they are going to allow you to take off for first at any point, at any count,
Yeah.
if the pitcher throws a wild pitch or a pass ball.
And it doesn't make any sense to me at all because the numbers are going to shift drastically when you change that rule. You don't think there's going to be a lot of people getting to first? There are.
Yeah.
And it's going to affect the pitcher a lot, and
So
that's not fun for me.
I immediately thought two things. First of all, wow, Billy Hamilton now has a chance to be good. That was the first thing I thought. Because, hey, he can steal first now. That was like the one thing.
He's going to get 100 stolen bases a season, dude.
People
It's going
always
to be
used
amazing.
to say, well, I mean, yeah, he can steal bases, but you can't steal first. There you go, Billy.
now he
this one's
can.
for you. Well, the other thing is, that's just going to extend the game. That's going to do the opposite of what he wants to do. Like you
go.
said, to your point, people are going to be getting on base now more often.
A lot. I think you're going to see it a lot.
This is just going to extend innings
Yeah.
and extend games. Also, why?
I mean, how many pass balls do we see every game to begin with? There's at least a handful.
Oh,
right?
and don't get me started. Yeah, it's just it's kind of like when they got rid of the intentional walk pitches. Like, how many of that was really bothering?
And I
people?
always kind of liked that. Wasn't there that one player that actually stayed in the batter's box and hit it anyway?
Well, Miguel Cabrera, when he was still on
Right.
the Marlins, hit a walk-off single that way.
Yeah.
Gary Sanchez 2 years ago almost hit a home run.
That's part of the game
outfielder had to go back.
that can still be exciting. So the fact that
Outfielder,
they
yeah.
think that's the reason the game is longer is a little idiotic.
Yeah,
to
like
me.
I'm gonna go up to my friend who's not a baseball fan, and I'm gonna say, "Hey, you want to go watch a baseball game? I got an extra ticket." No, man, I don't watch baseball. No, you don't get it. You don't get it. You can run for first now on wild pitches. Whoa, I'm in. That's it. Yeah, totally. I'm a baseball fan now.
Definitely. Everyone's going to come over. We're going to get all the people just for that rule. It's going to save the game of baseball.
It's unreal. It's heading down a very weird path. As I've said before, these are not the things that are killing baseball. Tanking is killing baseball, but of course nobody wants to look at that.
No, and to the point you made, he's at this point making changes just to make changes. It's like they're going to try this and they're going to try that to see which works and which doesn't.
It's the identity of the game.
Right.
It's the identity of the game that is going to go lost.
Right, and I like baseball being kind of an old school feel meets like family orientated sport. You know, it's nice to have that. You know, my dad passed baseball down to me, his mom passed it to him, and it's gonna, you know, that's. I don't really have that connection with basketball, and I know certain families do. Certain families like football more. My family is a baseball family.
Yeah.
So changing it, I'm not for all these changes at
Yeah,
all.
and like I said, there's good changes that can be made. There's changes that can, enhance certain things. I'm not trying to be one of those guys, old man yells at cloud. I'm not trying to be one of those dudes. I'm just trying to say, like, what is the purpose? What are you doing? Are you changing the identity of the game? Okay? The 4 pitches, I mean, that requires a skill. That doesn't... It's not necessarily, you have to be the most talented person in the world to pull off an intentional walk, but there is a skill between, turning off the mentality of I have to get this guy out, turning on the mentality of, okay, I have to throw 4 pitches way, way far away. And then turning on again the mentality of, all right, those pitches are done. I now need to go after this guy.
I could actually tell you in high school and rec ball, I hated doing the intentional walk. It threw me off. And I was not a speed pitcher. I was an accuracy pitcher. So I would hit my zones, but for some reason I got really nervous when I had to throw out a zone like that.
Yeah, that happens.
And I also was horrible at balking. I balked a lot. Y'all, my coach used to get so mad because I'd have my glove and I'd bite on my glove sometimes.
Oh, okay, that's abnormal.
Yeah. Call that a balk.
I guess technically you're moving. Yeah, you come set.
No, like I'd come like this, and then I'd bite my glove, and then I'd go back down and throw, and the ump would call it almost every time. It's so annoying. I'm like, no, let me bite my glove. That's what I do.
Yeah, I think that's rule 1.5, section C. Biting of the glove will result in an automatic balk.
Automatic balk.
Did you not hear about that rule?
I did not. I did not get the memo.
Yeah, well, I guess that's what's bothering us. Anything else bothering you?
Oh, everything bothers me. I'm just a naturally grumpy person.
Anything about baseball bothering you?
No.
This isn't your therapy session.
We're good. Let's jump right into the trade deadline as we talked about last time. We got a bunch of buyers and sellers. I also think we have a bunch of teams that are undecided.
Okay, so what do you got?
Boston might be undecided. The Mets are always undecided with everything in life.
So I'm gonna jump in really quick.
Yeah,
you mentioned Boston. That it seems like such a candidate for a team that will simply just try it again. Like, let's say they go nowhere. Let's say, deadline's coming fast. It's only a couple weeks away. But let's say they get to that deadline. They're still hovering around 500. I think you just do nothing. I think you just keep it the way it is. I think you just retool in the offseason and try again. I think this is a talented team. I just think they ignored their pitching way too much.
Yeah.
They ignored their pitching way too much. They let their bullpen out to dry. I think if this is a team that wants to succeed, it can succeed by improving its pitching. Right. And that means stay where you're at everywhere else and just see what you can find in the offseason.
Right. They lost Kimbrel and Kelly, I believe.
Yeah.
Their bullpen wasn't that great to begin with, but those are the 2 most significant pieces that you're now removing. So I think that definitely affected them, and we talked about that in the offseason, that it most likely would if they didn't improve it. Right. But when you don't have the resources to do that, because you're not going to go drastically over the luxury tax to, sign a player like Kimbrel.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely not.
And I think that Dombrowski made the right decision not doing that.
Yeah.
And it stinks that they're as far back they are this year, but they can possibly make some pieces for their bullpen. I think it's a smart decision to put a Baldy in the bullpen.
Yeah, definitely.
And you want to talk about Cashner, we'll talk about Cashner. I was wrong. I thought he was going to have a good debut. He was dreadful.
Look,
my fault.
To your point of what you told me before we started this show, yeah, it's only 1 start, so hell, maybe I'm wrong after all. He's going to be terrible. Yeah. Listen, I don't care what he's done so far this year. Cashner is what he is, okay? He had like a year or 2 years ago where he was kind of good and he was always that name floating around. Well, the Padres will ship him off this time. And he's actual trash. He was terrible for the Orioles. I'm not convinced that his strong start is sustained.
Right. And I mean, was it even really that strong? Because his ERA, which is what I usually look at, is hovering close to 4.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's below. That's okay. But like you said, win-losses really don't matter with the pitcher.
Win-loss really doesn't matter. ERA is a little weak. I'll get into that maybe another time because that's its own episode. But yeah, the stuff that I look at for a pitcher is what they can control.
Right.
You can control your strikeouts. You can control your walks. You can control, to a certain degree, the amount of home runs you give up. You can at least control the number of fly balls you give up. Okay, so maybe you can say, well, even home runs are kind of at the mercy of how many fly balls you give up. That's true. That is kind of a percentage numbers kind of thing. But these are the things you can control: your strikeouts, your walks, your fly balls, your home runs to an extent. It's doing nothing for me. The guy's numbers are just not. It's better than where he's been. It's better than where he's been for sure, but it's not.
would it have been smarter for the Red Sox to have gone after someone like Homer Bailey then? He's the
Yikes.
same type. Right, exactly. That's the point.
No, to be honest with you, he's pretty bad too.
It's pretty bad too. Because we have seen. I don't want to say the trade deadline is heating up now, but we have seen maybe 3 or 4 small moves over the past, couple weeks. Yeah. Bailey, Cashner, and Martin Maldonado, I think, got traded.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know. There's really only one pitcher out there that I can think of that would be a trade deadline get, and even he really does nothing for me. Like, I don't want the Yankees to go after Madison Bumgarner.
Right.
He's the one name that's out there that you could think to yourself, all right, well, maybe he can have like a really, really good stretch and maybe down